Welcome to AudioCert, where the official study guides are brought to life. I'm your host, and today we are embarking on a deep dive into what I consider the absolute heart of cybersecurity operations, how we actually make sense of all that raw, chaotic data out there. We're tackling a foundational and, frankly, fascinating component of EC Council's Certified Threat Intelligence Analyst, or CTIA, certification series. This isn't just theory, it's about mastering the art of transforming information into actionable power.
Precisely. Today's deep dive is custom-tailored for Chapter 5, Data Analysis. Think of it as the brain of your entire threat intelligence operation. It's the crucible where raw, often overwhelming, data begins its journey, transforming it to something genuinely meaningful and actionable. Without robust data analysis, even the most extensive data collection is, quite frankly, just noise and a lot of wasted effort.
That's a powerful way to put it. And it really hits home why data analysis is so critical in the world of threat intelligence. It's the process that empowers you, our listener, to move beyond simply having data to actually understanding it. That understanding then becomes the bedrock for effective decision-making, proactive defense, and building a truly resilient security posture. Our mission today is to give you a shortcut to being incredibly well-informed on this topic.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture, the overarching goal here is quite simple but profound. To equip you with the essential techniques to extract better threat intelligence, to rigorously evaluate its efficacy and reliability, and ultimately to manage it effectively. This module is designed to help analysts not only make sense of the immediate threat, but also to build a robust knowledge base, ensuring that every piece of intelligence contributes to a stronger, more informed organizational security posture.
So what exactly are we going to be unpacking in this deep dive? We've got a fantastic roadmap for you, covering a lot of ground, but keeping it focused. We'll kick things off by understanding the different types and techniques of data analysis, the foundational stuff. Then we'll grasp the entire threat analysis process itself, including the crucial art of threat modeling.
We'll also delve into how to fine-tune your threat analysis processes, ensuring they remain agile and relevant in a constantly changing threat landscape. Crucially, we'll cover techniques for evaluating intelligence, because good intelligence is only truly good if it's accurate, reliable, and useful for its intended purpose.
Right, it has to be trustworthy. And beyond the analysis itself, we'll talk about creating practical, lasting resources, developing robust runbooks, and an accessible knowledge base to capture and share your hard-won insights. Finally, we'll explore the various threat intelligence tools available to help you put all these powerful concepts into practice.
This all builds directly on our previous discussions, where we explored various data sources, collection methods, and the vital step of data normalization. Now that you understand how to get that raw data and prepare it, it's time to truly make sense of it.
Okay, let's unpack this. Let's dive right in. Hashtag deep dive discussion. Hashtag Enrich 1, overview of data analysis. So let's start with the big picture. What exactly is data analysis in the context of threat intelligence? At its core, it's a systematic process. We're talking about examining, filtering, transforming, and modeling all that raw collected data. It's about taking those huge, often overwhelming data sets we've acquired and breaking them down into smaller, more manageable components, all with the goal of extracting useful information using statistical and logical techniques.
That's a great starting point, absolutely. For any analyst, this process is indispensable. It's what enables you to build genuine intelligence, reach effective conclusions, and provide the insights necessary to support critical decision-making for organizational management. It's not just about crunching numbers, it's about exploring and sorting that data to find hidden patterns and trends, and ultimately identifying performance issues or vulnerabilities that require immediate action to prevent or mitigate threats.
I see. And when we talk about data analysis, there are two closely associated concepts that often come up, almost like siblings. First, data mining. What's the core idea there?
Think of data mining as your digital bloodhound. It's about sniffing out hidden patterns, correlations, and anomalies in truly massive data sets, patterns you didn't even know existed. It often leverages sophisticated statistics, artificial intelligence, AI, machine learning, ML, and database analytics. It's not just finding a needle in a haystack, it's realizing the haystack itself is a crucial clue that can reveal a deeper story.
That's a fantastic analogy. A digital bloodhound. I like that. And then there's data visualization. That sounds like it's about making sense of what the bloodhound found.
Exactly. Data visualization is about making that often complex information digestible and understandable at a glance. It's the simple and logical graphical representation of complex information through various visual means, charts, graphs, heat maps, Because let's be honest, a well-designed chart can communicate a critical insight far more effectively and rapidly than a spreadsheet full of raw numbers ever could, especially when you're trying to convey risk to busy executives.
Absolutely. A picture is worth 1,000 data points sometimes. Now, before we even get to the different types of analysis, there's a crucial preliminary step, contextualization of data. What does that actually mean for us?
Right. Contextualization is the process of effectively reducing the sheer volume of intelligence into meaningful content by actively excluding irrelevant information. Imagine you have a fire hose blasting data at you. Contextualization is like attaching a precise nozzle to direct that water exactly where it needs to go, focusing on what truly matters to your organization.
Why is that so crucial for threat intelligence? Isn't more data always better, even if some of it's just noise?
Not always,
Yeah.
and definitely not in threat intelligence. Contextualization dramatically improves the scalability and effectiveness of your intelligence processing. It helps in developing best practices because you're consistently focusing on what's truly relevant. This, in turn, leads to faster and better analysis, ensures you're generating high-quality intelligence, and enables a much better presentation and understanding of threat-specific data. You're essentially giving the right relevant information to the right people, reducing noise and increasing clarity and impact. Without context, even perfect data is useless.
That makes perfect sense. Focus the fire hose. So once we have our data and we've contextualized it to make it relevant, what are the different ways we can actually analyze this collected information?
Well, depending on the specific requirement or the question you're trying to answer, analysts can employ several types of data analysis. Let's walk through some of the most common ones, moving from understanding the past and present to predicting and prescribing for the future.
Okay. First up, we have descriptive analysis. What's that about?
Descriptive analysis focuses on analyzing real-time data of current activities. Its primary purpose is to identify what is currently happening within the organization based on the real-time data that has been acquired. Think of it as taking a high-resolution snapshot of the present state, giving you a baseline understanding.
Got it. The what's happening right now picture. And next, there's diagnostic analysis.
Diagnostic analysis looks backward. It focuses on analyzing data related to past events. The purpose here is to analyze threats and understand the reasons for the cause of a particular threat situation. It's all about root cause analysis, figuring out why something happened. Did a specific exploit succeed because a patch was missing, or was it a phishing campaign that enabled initial access?
Right. Digging into the why makes sense. So understanding the past and present. Now, how about looking forward? That brings us to predictive analysis.
Indeed, predictive analysis is all about the future. It focuses on analyzing existing data to forecast futuristic events. Its purpose is to predict upcoming attacks on the organization. It's important to remember that it forecasts estimates, not specified or guaranteed results. It gives you a heads up on potential threats, allowing for proactive measures, but it's like a weather forecast. It gives you the most likely outcome, not a certainty.
A probabilistic view of the future. And building on that, we have prescriptive analysis. This sounds like it tells you what to do after the prediction.
Precisely. Prescriptive analysis takes it a crucial step further. It applies advanced analytic techniques to not just predict, but to make specific recommendations for action. Its purpose is to help execute response actions and develop countermeasures to prevent attacks. This type often employs sophisticated tools and techniques, including machine learning, to suggest optimal actions and guide your defensive strategy. It's the now what answer.
Okay, got it. Shifting gears slightly, we also distinguish between qualitative analysis and quantitative analysis. What's the key difference there, especially in our field?
Good question. Qualitative analysis focuses on analyzing the quality of collected data using non-numeric techniques. Its purpose is to define the likelihood of a threat occurrence, often based on non-numerical factors. Techniques here might include brainstorming sessions with experts, interviewing key personnel, performing a SWOT that's strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats analysis, or using the Delphi technique to gather expert consensus. It provides insights that go beyond traditional numerical methods, often capturing nuances, motivations, or expert opinions that numbers alone can't fully express. It's the why and how likely based on judgment.
The human element, the expert judgment, and then the other side of that coin is quantitative analysis.
Right. Quantitative analysis focuses on analyzing huge quantities of collected data using numerical techniques. Its purpose is to perform data analysis through rigorous numerical calculations, statistical modeling, measurement, and research. This is where the big data crunching, the counting, the measuring, and the statistical comparisons really come into play. It gives you hard numbers and measurable impacts, volume and scale.
Okay. We also have exploratory analysis. This sounds like a reconnaissance mission for data itself.
It's a great way to describe it. Exploratory analysis is all about discovery. It focuses on analyzing relationships among collected data elements based on assumptions you might have, or sometimes just seeing what pops out. Its purpose is to find links between different pieces of data and discover new threat-related information that might not have been obvious otherwise. It's like detective work, meticulously looking for clues and connections without a preconceived hypothesis, seeing what the data tells you.
Letting the data guide you initially. And finally, confirmatory analysis.
Confirmatory analysis is more about validating what you already suspect or have hypothesized. It focuses on analyzing those hypotheses with a specified precision and confidence level. Its purpose is to produce precise estimates using methods like regression analysis and variance analysis, essentially confirming or refuting a hypothesis with a high degree of statistical certainty. It's about backing up your hunches or initial findings with solid data. Testing your theory rigorously. #tag22. Understanding data analysis techniques. Now, while all those types of data analysis are broadly applicable, threat analysis is a specific part of data analysis focused solely on threat detection and prevention. Many of the techniques we're about to discuss can be directly applied to that specific challenge.
Okay, let's start with statistical data analysis. This sounds like the bread and butter of making sense of a lot of information, getting down to the facts.
It absolutely is. Statistical data analysis is a standard process employed by analysts to efficiently narrow down required information from collected data, whether that data is continuous, like time values, or discrete, like counts of events. It's about getting to the core insights quickly and reliably. Common software packages used for this include Statistical Analysis System, or SAS, IBM's SPSS, which is a statistical custody for the social sciences, and StatSoft.
Got it. Can you walk us through the general process of statistical data analysis from a threat intelligence perspective? How does it flow?
Certainly. It typically involves 5 key stages, kind of building on each other. The first stage is data preparation. This is the initial step involving data collection, normalization, and aggregation concepts we've thoroughly discussed in our previous deep dive. This raw collected data is then cleansed, organized, and prepared for all the subsequent analysis steps. Think of it as getting all your ingredients ready and properly measured before you start cooking. Mise en place for data.
Mise en place. Nice. Okay, after preparation, we move to data classification. What does that involve?
Yes. Data classification is about categorizing and grouping similar data after it's been normalized and structured. Use various parameters or classifiers for this. These could be indicator types, such as IP addresses, internet protocol addresses, URLs, domain names, or file types. They could be attributes like the language used in a malicious email, the geographical region of an attack, or specific malware types. We also classify by adversary, which could be an organization, an individual, or even a nation-state. Another classifier is incidents or events, looking at the time, day, owner, or user ID related to a security event. And finally, relevance, which considers factors like brand name, operating system, or user context that might be targeted, basically slicing the data in meaningful ways.
So how do we actually categorize that data? Are there specific methods?
A couple of common techniques are data clustering and statistical distribution. Data clustering involves segmenting datasets into groups or clusters of items that share similar properties based on their information value and usability. Think of it as automatically grouping items that naturally belong together, like finding all similar phishing emails in a massive inbox.
So like putting all apples in one basket and oranges in another, automatically.
Exactly, but it gets a bit more nuanced. We have 2 main types. Hard clustering, where each data item belongs exclusively to one cluster, for example. An IP address is either definitively malicious or not. And then soft clustering, where data items have a probability of belonging to multiple clusters. An IP might have a high probability of being associated with one threat group, but a lower probability of being associated with another. Popular algorithms here include k-mean clustering, which finds clusters of points, and hierarchical clustering, which builds a tree of clusters, different ways to group.
Interesting, the probabilistic grouping. And what about statistical distribution? How does that help in classification?
Statistical distribution involves listing all possible data values based on their occurrence within the dataset. This allows you to examine the shape, center, and variation of your data. For example, by analyzing the distribution of specific characteristics in a new malware sample, you can compare its patterns with known malware signatures to quickly classify it. If you plot this, you might see a Z-curve for a standard normal distribution, which indicates expected behavior, so any deviation would be a red flag. It tells you if something looks normal or weird.
Spotting the anomalies through distribution. Okay. Once data is prepared and classified, the next step in statistical analysis is data validation. This sounds incredibly important. Like, is this data even real?
Data validation is absolutely crucial. It's about ensuring that all the collected, normalized, and categorized data is actually valid, accurate, and genuinely useful for threat intelligence. A big part of this involves understanding confidence levels and standard deviation, or SD.
Confidence levels, I've heard that term. What do they signify in threat intelligence? How sure are we?
Confidence levels describe the probability of the data being true or falling within a required range. A higher probability means more accuracy and reliability. Threat intelligence data is typically rated as low, medium, or high confidence, and these levels can change dynamically with emerging threats or new corroborating evidence. Often, this is conceptually described using a Gaussian or Bell distribution curve plotted with the mean, median, and standard deviation. It gives you a sense of certainty.
And standard deviation, that sounds like a hardcore statistical term. What's the practical takeaway for us as analysts? How spread out is it?
Right. While the precise mathematical formula for standard deviation, or SD, involves calculating the square root of variance, the key takeaway for us is what it tells you. Is the degree of diffusion, or how spread out your collected data points are from their calculated average, the mean. In threat intelligence, a lower deviation in a dataset, especially when comparing a new observation to known malicious signatures, can be a huge statistical signal that confirms the presence of malware or malicious content with high certainty. It tells you how tightly clustered or widely dispersed your data is, which is incredibly useful for anomaly detection. Is this data point way off on its own?
That's truly fascinating how statistics can give you such a strong signal of malware presence just from data deviation. That low deviation means it's very similar to known bad stuff. After validation, we move to data correlation, finding connections.
Yes. Data correlation provides vital information about the relationships or links that exist between different data points, allowing us to categorize them as similar entities or to understand their interdependencies. It describes how two or more variables interact, often using conditional probability. The concept of conditional probability is all about understanding how the likelihood of one event changes if another event has already occurred. If we see A, how likely is B?
And are there specific techniques for data correlation? How do we measure these relationships?
Yes, there are three prominent ones, each suited for different types of relationships. Instead of diving into the complex formulas, let's focus on their superpowers, what they're good for. Pearson's R-correlation coefficient is your go-to for straightforward linear connections. It measures how strongly two variables move together in a straight line, like if the number of successful phishing attempts directly correlates with a spike in malware infections. Its value, ranging from -1 to +1, tells you if the relationship is positive, negative, or non-existent, and how strong that linear connection is. 0 means no linear link.
Okay, so linear connections with Pearson's. What about the others? What if it's not a straight line?
Then we have Spearman's rank correlation coefficient. This is fantastic when you're looking for a consistent monotonic trend, even if it's not a perfectly straight line. Think of it like this. If one thing generally goes up as another goes up or down as another goes down, even if it curves a bit, that's a monotonic association. It relies on the rank order of your data, not necessarily precise numerical values, which makes it super flexible for things like observing how a threat actor's tactics might generally evolve over time without a perfectly predictable numerical pattern. It cares about the order, not the exact value. Finally, there's Kendall's rank correlation coefficient, often denoted as tau. This is also a non-parametric analysis, meaning it doesn't assume a specific distribution, and it measures the ordinal relationship between two variables. This means it's excellent for understanding consistency in rankings. For instance, if you have different security analysts ranking the severity of various threats, Kendall's tau can tell you how much agreement there is between their rankings. It's particularly useful for discrete, ordered data.
The real skill for an analyst is knowing which tool to pick for the relationship you're trying to uncover. Are things moving linearly, generally in the same direction, or are the rankings consistent?
That's incredibly helpful understanding the purpose of each. It's not just math, it's choosing the right lens. After all that intricate analysis preparation, classification, validation, correlation, we arrive at the final stage, data scoring.
Data scoring is where we bring it all together. This is the final stage of statistical analysis where data is scored based on high-threat parameters, including its potential damage level and its occurrence rate. How bad is it, and how often does it happen? It helps to identify which threats are most important, most harmful, and most prominent to focus upon, and which ones are less critical or even ignorable. Analysts perform data scoring using graphing and charting techniques to visualize these scores and easily spot critical patterns. This is crucial for prioritizing response efforts. Where do we put our resources?
Wow, that's a lot of statistical power. What tools are available to help us with all this statistical data analysis? We mentioned SAS and SPSS earlier.
Right. There's a wide range of powerful tools available to make these complex statistical analyses manageable. SASDAT software is a state-of-the-art statistical analysis suite used for making new discoveries, from traditional analysis of variance and linear regression to more advanced Bayesian inference and high-performance modeling. It's often used in very large-scale enterprise environments, a real heavy hitter.
And a very familiar name, IBM SPSS, used in academia a lot too, right?
Yes, IBM SPSS is another industry giant. It offers advanced statistical analysis capabilities, a vast library of machine learning algorithms, text analysis features, open source extensibility, and robust big data integration. It's renowned for being user-friendly, flexible, and scalable, comprising both SPSS statistics for core statistical work and SPSS Modeler for predictive analytics. Beyond these, you'll also find tools like R, which is a hugely popular open-source language for statistical computing data wrapper for visualization, ATLAS.py, and NVivo, which are great for qualitative data analysis, Stata, MATLAB, and even everyday MS Excel for simpler tasks and data organization. Your study guides will have a more comprehensive list, but these are some of the key players you'll encounter.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting for an analyst, I think. Analysis of competing hypotheses, or ACH. This sounds like something out of a spy novel, forcing you to think like an intelligence operative, systematically testing ideas.
In a way, it is. ACH is a rigorous analytic process where multiple hypotheses are pitted against each other to extract the best one. Its core purpose is to minimize cognitive limitations and biases that often make intelligence analysis difficult, and to achieve more prescient, forward-looking intelligence. It's an advanced form of what's called abductive reasoning. Unlike deductive reasoning, which proves a conclusion, or inductive, which generalizes, abductive reasoning is all about finding the most likely explanation for an observed event based on the available evidence. ACH explicitly incorporates elements of data mining, cognitive psychology, and probability statistics, and is designed to help analysts systematically overcome common analytic pitfalls, trying to avoid jumping to conclusions.
So it helps us avoid blind spots and avoid confirmation bias. That's incredibly valuable. Can you walk us through the stages of the ACH process? How does it actually work?
Absolutely. The ACH process involves 7 crucial structured stages, and its true genius, I think, lies in forcing analysts to actively try to prove their own theories wrong. It's counterintuitive, but it's what builds genuinely robust intelligence. The first stage is hypothesis. This is the initial step to identify all potential hypotheses that need to be considered. What could possibly explain this? These can be generated by a single analyst or a group of analysts. Often, bringing in diverse backgrounds leads to more robust and varied hypotheses. There's a screening process here to eliminate unnecessary or unproven hypotheses and generate new ones. A key note: avoid a vast number of hypotheses, as that can lead to overwhelming uncertainty and make the analysis much harder. You're looking for a manageable set of plausible explanations, maybe 3 to 7 good ones.
That makes perfect sense. Too many ideas can be just as bad as too few. Analysis paralysis. What's next after we have our core hypotheses?
Next is evidence. In this stage, analysts meticulously list all important pieces of evidence and arguments for and against each of the identified hypotheses. An analyst broadly considers all possible factors that influence their judgment. Because each hypothesis is different, the evidence supporting or contradicting them will also differ. It requires the analyst to apply their own perceptions and assumptions, but also, crucially, to consider the deductions and perspectives of other analysts. This is where you gather all your clues, everything relevant.
Okay, so we have our hypotheses and a comprehensive list of evidence. How do we start narrowing things down and figuring out which hypothesis holds water? This sounds like the core of it.
That's the diagnostic stage. Here, the analyst uses all their analytic skills to reject as many hypotheses as possible, selecting the best ones with the help of the listed evidence. A common method is to create a matrix with hypotheses across the top and evidence down the side. This matrix helps you define the diagnosticity of each piece of evidence, how well it helps to differentiate between competing hypotheses. Does this piece of evidence point more strongly to H1 than H2? This systematic evaluation, considering one piece of evidence at a time against all hypotheses, is what truly distinguishes ACH from more traditional, less structured analysis. It forces consistency.
So it's about systematically challenging each hypothesis with the evidence, almost like a courtroom trial where evidence is presented against each possibility.
Precisely. After diagnostics, we move to refinement. In this stage, the analyst refines the matrix based on the diagnostic process. This involves removing any non-diagnostic evidence clues that don't help differentiate between the remaining hypotheses, analyzing any overlooked evidence, and formulating new hypotheses if the existing ones are insufficient. You might reconsider existing hypotheses, actively try to add evidence to disprove them, and even combine any hypotheses that have negligible or no distinguishing evidence. Documenting any excluded evidence is also a crucial part of this stage, maintaining transparency. Why did we ignore this piece?
So still trying to poke holes in our theories, even refining them. What's the actual point where we start rejecting inconsistent hypotheses, making the tough calls?
That's the inconsistency stage. This is the actual point of rejecting hypotheses that are inconsistent with the evidence. Based on the consistency levels derived from your matrix, you draw tentative conclusions. A core principle here is to actively try to prove hypotheses wrong, rather than trying to prove them right. If you can find just one single piece of significant evidence that is inconsistent with a hypothesis, that can be enough to reject it. It's a very rigorous application of falsification. Find the killer fact against it.
That sounds like a very rigorous, almost scientific approach. Challenge everything.
It is, and it leads directly into sensitivity analysis. After drawing tentative conclusions, analysts perform a sensitivity analysis on them. This stage involves double-checking and revalidating all evidence and arguments by analyzing how sensitive the conclusions are to wrong or misleading evidence. How much does our conclusion depend on this one shaky piece of evidence? This is crucial because just one wrong piece of evidence or a flawed assumption can completely ruin the entire analysis output. You're testing the robustness of your conclusions. How solid is this, really?
And finally, the payoff. Conclusions and evaluation. The final report, basically.
Exactly. In this last stage, the analyst evaluates all the hypotheses and draws final conclusions. These conclusions, along with their relative likelihoods, the reasons for including or excluding specific evidence, and any suggested milestones for future analyses, are then meticulously documented and handed over to management or stakeholders. It's the final, authoritative statement based on all the structured critical thinking. Here's what we think and why, with caveats.
That's a powerful framework. Are there any specific tools that help analysts implement ACH? Make it easier than drawing giant matrices by hand?
One prominent tool is Pear's ACH. It's designed to help analysts think systematically about complex problems, especially when they're dealing with incomplete or ambiguous information. Pear's ACH guides you through a structured process for making a well-reasoned, analytical judgment. It's particularly useful for issues requiring careful weighing of alternative explanations, whether it's understanding what happened, what is currently happening, or what might happen. It minimizes cognitive limitations and protects against avoidable errors, improving the accuracy of judgment. Other tools include ACH File Pro and ACH, which you can find online at competinghypotheses.org. They help manage the process.
That makes a lot of sense. Now, building on ACH, we have something called Structured Analysis of Competing Hypotheses, or SCHH. How is that different, and why would an analyst choose that over standard ACH? Sounds even more structured.
SAC is considered an advanced ACH process, more sophisticated, especially when dealing with highly complex questions that have many interconnected parts. Its main advantage is that it strategically splits one complex hypothesis into multiple simpler ones, making the analysis process easier and more effective for the analyst. It helps break down a daunting, complex question into simple, manageable hypotheses, then iteratively tests progressively more complex hypotheses until all aspects of the original question are thoroughly answered, like building blocks.
So it's a step-by-step refinement, almost like peeling an onion layer by layer, tackling complexity piece by piece.
Exactly. The SWH process starts by identifying simple, competing, or mutually exclusive hypotheses. These are then rigorously tested. If the analyst arrives at clear estimates, the complexity of the hypotheses is increased and testing continues. Build up the complexity. If clear estimates are not reached, additional evidence is collected, targeted specifically at the current hypotheses, and the testing process is repeated. Go find more data for this specific point. The process stops when customer intelligence needs are met, all available evidence has been exhausted, or a time deadline has been met. It ensures thoroughness while managing complexity.
Got it. Beyond statistical methods and competing hypotheses, what other data analysis methodologies can threat intelligence analysts use to bring useful intelligence from data and improve their efficiency? Any other tricks in the bag?
There are several valuable approaches that complement these techniques. First, opportunity analysis. In threat intelligence, this refers to a detailed review of the usability of the intelligence or the opportunities where it can make a significant impact. Where can this intel make the biggest difference? For example, an analyst might request this to determine the right information sources for a particular assignment, or to identify flaws in an existing security policy that the intelligence could address. It's about finding the strategic leverage points for your insights.
Interesting. Finding the best application. And linchpin analysis, what's the core idea there? Sounds critical.
Linchpin analysis involves creating a logical sequence of events based on assumptions about an adversary's proposed actions, their mechanisms, indicators they leave behind, and the potential implications. What are the critical steps they must take? It considers key factors like bad actors, their methods, the vulnerabilities they exploit, and their targets. This helps organizations make informed decisions, even in situations with high uncertainty, by understanding the critical components, the linchpins that hold an attack chain together. If we break this one link.
We also have analogy analysis. This sounds quite intuitive, comparing to past events.
Right. Analogy analysis is a technical analysis that simplifies understanding by comparing current, unfamiliar data with a relevant, known situation or a past incident. It makes complex threat intelligence more relatable and understandable, allowing analysts to draw parallels and accelerate their comprehension. It's like saying, this new malware campaign acts a lot like that old one from last year, but with this specific twist, using past experience.
Then there's the cone of plausibility. That's a vivid image. What's that about? Exploring futures.
The cone of plausibility is a scenario-based planning method. It involves developing various scenarios through different assumptions to create robust trails for potential future events. Key components include determining the time horizon and the central question you're trying to answer, identifying the key drivers that could influence the future, obtaining assumptions from how these drivers might behave, developing an initial scenario, then plausible alternatives by altering those assumptions, and even final extreme scenarios by altering multiple assumptions. What's the best case, worst case, most likely case? It helps you prepare for a range of futures, not just one predicted outcome. Planning for uncertainty.
This sounds very forward-looking, very strategic. What about understanding event sequences, like tracking an incident as it unfolds?
For that, we use timeline analysis. This is a graphical representation of events and actions laid out chronologically. It's an easy and incredibly effective method for network threat detection and incident response, allowing analysts to visually observe the relationships between different forms of data and piece together the story of an attack. What happened when?
Seeing the narrative unfold. And finally, critical path analysis. Sounds like project management.
It is, essentially. Critical path analysis identifies the set of activities required for accomplishing a specific task or project. It's a project modeling technique that lists all activities, their estimated time, their dependencies on other tasks, and logical endpoints or milestones. In a CTI cyber threat intelligence project, it's used to analyze the sequence and duration of activities, helping to optimize workflows and identify bottlenecks in the intelligence process itself, making sure the intel gets produced efficiently. #3, overview of threat analysis.
That was a deep dive into data analysis in general, lots of different ways to slice and dice information. Now let's pivot to the specific application of these powerful principles, threat analysis. How would you define it, expert? Especially for a CTIA analyst, what makes it threat analysis?
Right. Threat analysis is essentially the specialized process of examining, filtering, transforming, and modeling acquired threat-specific data to extract actionable intelligence that can be disseminated. It's where we match internal and external threat information or known vulnerabilities pertinent to a particular organization to real-world attacks. It's the process of connecting the dots, the vulnerabilities, the actors, the methods to truly understand the threats facing you specifically.
And what's its core purpose? Why do we do it, beyond just knowing?
Its core purpose is to enable an analyst to predict, to combat, and ultimately to prevent possible threats to the organization. It critically enriches the security measures of an organization by providing crucial insight into both internal security telemetry and external threat landscape data. It's also important to remember that the definition of a threat varies from organization to organization, so threat analysis is not a fixed one-size-fits-all procedure. It heavily depends on the specific requirements of the organization. What matters to us? And as we discussed earlier, structured and normalized data is absolutely key for beginning this analysis. Without that foundation, it's just, well, a mess. Garbage in, garbage out.
Right. The prep work matters hugely. So based on the type of intelligence needed, analysts perform different techniques. What are the main categories or types of threat intelligence analysis we should be familiar with? Different levels, maybe?
We can categorize them into 4 main types, each serving a different audience and purpose, often thought of in terms of strategic, operational, tactical, and technical levels. First, strategic threat intelligence analysis. This focuses on high-level data collected from sources like OSINT, Open Source Intelligence Industry White Papers, and human contacts. Its purpose is to build strategic threat intelligence that supports senior management decisions, things like budget allocation, long-term security roadmaps, or risk appetite. What are the big-picture risks? This requires deep expertise, involves large amounts of data with varying relevance and reliability, and includes socio-political analysis and cautious attribution of cyber attacks. It's the big-picture stuff for the execs.
Okay, so that's for the C-suite, the boardroom. Next, operational threat intelligence analysis. This sounds like it's more about current operations, the here and now.
Precisely. Operational threat intelligence analysis focuses on data from activity-related attacks, social media discussions, and chat room conversations. Where are the attackers active now? The purpose is to build operational threat intelligence, identifying signs of activity that correlate with specific attacks or campaigns targeting your sector or technology. Key activities here include removing noise or unwanted content from social media feeds, developing scripts to monitor specific forums, staying updated on codes and slang used by threat actors, and performing linguistic or timeline analysis to track aliases. This provides valuable insight into upcoming attacks and helps security teams understand areas to focus on for prevention and incident response. What should we be worried about today or this week?
Then we have tactical threat intelligence analysis. What kind of data does this feed off, and what's its goal? Getting down to the nitty-gritty. Exactly. Tactical threat intelligence analysis focuses on granular data from attack group reports, campaign reports, incident reports, and malware samples. How are they actually doing it? Its purpose is to build highly specific tactical threat intelligence by extracting detailed adversary information. This includes understanding their modus operandi, often referred to as TTP's tactics, techniques, and procedures. How do they gain initial access? How do they pivot within a network? How do they escalate privileges? And how do they extract data? This directly guides security professionals in securing new infrastructure, hardening existing systems, and tuning detection capabilities based on observed adversary behavior.
So understanding how they act, their playbook, what else is involved in tactical analysis? It also involves analyzing the tools adversaries use. By understanding their specific tools and capabilities, whether they're using custom tools that require specialized ERR rules for detection, common remote access Trojans or RATs, or sophisticated scripting languages, organizations can better protect themselves. The focus here is on understanding what an adversary can do and the specific software or methods they employ, what's in their toolkit. We also look at their communication channels, or C2 command and control communications, such as HTTP or DNS traffic used by malware to communicate with attackers. Analyzing these channels helps understand attacker strategy and suggest prevention methods, like blocking known C2 domains. And finally, forensic evasion strategies, where we analyze an adversary's security evading tools and actions to build effective counter tactics, understanding how they try to hide their tracks so we can better find them. How do they try to avoid detection?
Okay. The final type is technical threat intelligence analysis. This sounds like the deepest dive into the raw bits and bytes, the indicators themselves.
It is. Technical threat intelligence analysis focuses on granular data from malware, network, and email indicators, the specific clues they leave behind. This includes details like adversary IP addresses, operating systems, subnet details, C2 domain names, and phishing email headers. Its purpose is to build highly specific technical threat intelligence, which is often very short-lived due to attackers constantly changing their infrastructure. These IPs might be bad today, gone tomorrow. This requires swift manual or automated analysis and thorough filtering, with little meta-analysis needed. It's very operational, very immediate. Sources like STIX, Structured Threat Information Expression, and OpenIOC, Open Indicators of Compromise, are common standards for sharing this data. And analysts often use conversion tools and scripting for new sources, along with open source tools like CIF, Collective Intelligence Framework, to extract indicators of compromise, or IOCs. These are the things you feed directly into your firewalls and EDRs. #tag4. Understanding the threat analysis process. Following a specific, well-defined procedure is absolutely crucial for effective threat analysis. It's not just about applying individual techniques, but about having a well-structured workflow that ensures consistency, thoroughness, and actionability. A repeatable process.
That's a great point. Chaos doesn't help during an incident. Can you walk us through the general threat analysis process and responsibilities from the moment we detect something suspicious? What are the steps?
Certainly. Once threat data is collected, a well-defined process ensures appropriate action. It starts with indicator escalation. Prioritized threat indicators undergo further scrutiny, initiating the kill chain mechanism we'll discuss. This means you don't chase every single alert, but focus on the most critical ones first. Triage is key.
What happens when an indicator is escalated? What's the first real analysis step?
Next is initial analysis. This often involves malware analysis techniques like reverse engineering and e-discovery performed in an isolated environment, a sandbox, to safely understand its functionalities and potential impact. What does this thing do? After this initial understanding, we often apply frameworks like the Diamond model, which we'll get to shortly, for deeper indicator enrichment, adding context. This leads to enrichment indicator through fusion analysis, where we characterize and enhance the indicators by mapping them to relevant threat actors, their TTPs, tactics, techniques, and procedures, and ongoing attack campaigns. This adds crucial context, telling you not just what an indicator is, but who might be using it and how, connecting it to the bigger picture.
And who ultimately receives this refined intelligence? Does it just stay with the analyst?
No, definitely not. That's the escalation of an event to a threat dissemination analyst. The intelligence is then disseminated to its intended stakeholders, the security teams, management, or other relevant parties based on a predefined threat escalation protocol, or TP, who needs to know what and when. Finally, we document findings in a threat intelligence portal, which is a formalized process for sharing analyzed indicators efficiently within the organization's threat collaboration environment, ensuring that lessons learned are captured and made accessible for the future. Don't lose that knowledge.
Okay, that process makes sense. You mentioned the cyber kill chain methodology as a crucial part of this. Why is it so important for threat analysis, and how does an analyst use it? It's quite famous.
The cyber kill chain is foundational because it outlines the typical stages of a cyber attack, originally developed by Lockheed Martin. If any one stage in that chain is successfully mitigated, the entire threat can be prevented, or at least significantly disrupted. Analysts must deeply understand each phase and perform analysis based on them to eliminate threats at every possible stage. It provides a structured way to think about both attack progression and defense opportunities.
Can you break down the phases and the analyst actions within each, giving us a clearer picture of how it works in practice, from start to finish?
Of course. It starts with reconnaissance. Here, the threat actor is gathering information about the target. They're casing the joint. The analyst's job is to analyze all publicly available information that could be used against the organization, perform regular scanning on organizational assets for vulnerabilities, and acquire vulnerability assessment logs. What are our weak spots? Critically, they also ensure security infrastructure like firewalls, IDS intrusion detection systems, and SIEM security information and event management systems are properly configured to detect such probing activities. Can we see them looking? Next is weaponization, where threat actors combine an exploit with a payload, creating a weaponized document or an executable. They build their weapon. These payloads could be rats, remote access trojans, backdoors, or worms. The analyst must capture and analyze these payloads to extract crucial tactical intelligence, such as the exploit type, specific malware details, and campaign specifics to develop a comprehensive threat profile and understand the attacker's capabilities. What did they build?
How does the malware actually get delivered to the target, the delivery mechanism?
That's the delivery phase. Analysts must analyze all possible malware delivery routes, such as spear phishing attacks, drive-by downloads, or USB drops. For example, in a suspected phishing email, they'd meticulously analyze the sender address, subject line, and mail header for anomalies. They can also employ IDS or secure email gateways to detect and mitigate these delivery attempts. How did it get in the door? Then comes exploitation. If the attacker successfully triggers a vulnerability on the target system using their weaponized payload, the exploit runs. The analyst must first ensure anti-malware, antivirus, and anti-Trojan software are in place and up to date. Then they acquire system indicators and alerts to analyze the executed malware, understand the exploit's mechanisms, and build an intelligence picture. Did the weapon fire successfully?
And if the payload gets installed after exploitation, what happens then?
That's the installation phase. If the payload is installed, it establishes persistence on the system. It'll perform various malicious activities like process injection, making registry changes, creating scheduled tasks, initiating network activities, and attempting to connect to malicious servers. The analyst's job is to perform deep malware analysis activities to capture and identify these malicious actions, acquiring crucial intelligence about the attacker's TTPs. What did it do once it got a foothold? Following installation, the malware establishes command and control, C2, creating a communication channel back to the attacker. It phones home. The analyst performs malware reverse engineering activities to identify and record these C2 connections, the domains, the IPs, the protocols used. This acquired intelligence is then integrated into SIEMs, IDs, and IPS intrusion prevention systems to block communication and mitigate further threats, cut off their control.
And the final stage of the kill chain, the ultimate goal for the attacker, what are they trying to achieve?
That's actions on objectives. This is where the attacker achieves their primary goals, whatever they might be. This could be gaining persistent system access, stealing credentials, exfiltrating sensitive data, encrypting files for ransom, or locking out legitimate users. They achieve their mission. The analyst analyzes these actions to fully understand the threat actor's intentions and the impact on the organization. Mitigations like robust authentication, like two-factor authentication, 2FA, data loss prevention, DLP, and proper segmentation are crucial here to prevent the adversary from achieving their final aims. Stop the damage.
It's clear that organizational defensive strategies must align perfectly with these cyber kill chain phases. You need defenses at each step. Can you give us some practical examples of that alignment? Detection, denial, disruption.
Absolutely. For the reconnaissance phase, you detect with tools like web analytics or network flow monitoring, and deny with firewall access control lists, ACLs, to block suspicious scanning from known bad IPs. In the weaponization phase, you might detect a weaponized document with an IDS looking for known exploits and deny its execution with an IPS or endpoint protection that blocks macros. For delivery, a vigilant user can often detect a phishing attempt, while denial comes from proxy filters blocking malicious sites and disruption from antivirus AV software quarantining malicious attachments.
So, different actions and different tools for different stages. A layered defense mapped to the attack stages.
Exactly. During exploitation, you detect a successful exploit with an IDS or EDR, endpoint detection and response. Deny by promptly patching known vulnerabilities so the exploit fails, and disrupt with OS-level protections like data execution prevention, DEP. For installation, it's detect persistent mechanisms with an IDS or EDR and deny malware execution with AV software or application whitelisting. In the command and control phase, you detect C2 traffic with an IDS or network traffic analysis, deny connections with firewall ACLs or IPS blocking known C2 infrastructure, and potentially deceive the attacker with target redirection to a sinkhole or honeynet. Finally, for actions on objectives, you detect unusual activity like large data transfers with audit logs or UEBA, user and entity behavior analytics, and deceive attackers with a honeypot to waste their time and gather more intelligence. Each stage demands a tailored, coordinated defense.
This raises an important question. How do we systematically identify, analyze, and rank threats in the first place, especially before an attack even happens? That's where threat modeling comes in, right? Almost like trying to get inside the attacker's head proactively.
Threat modeling is indeed a systematic procedural method for identifying and analyzing threats, and then ranking them according to their maliciousness and risk level. It allows the analyst to understand a threat actor's profile and methodology, which in turn enables the creation of efficient countermeasures and the gathering of valuable TTPs. Ideally, it's done during the system design phase, explicitly adopting an attacker's viewpoint, thinking, if I were trying to break this system or application, how would I do it? Be the bad guy for a day.
So it's about being proactive and anticipating attacks. What are the key goals of doing threat modeling? Why invest the time?
Its goals are multifaceted, identifying, analyzing, and ranking possible threats before they're exploited, identifying logical thought processes for developing robust system security architecture, understanding the threat actor's profile, behavior, and typical attack methods relevant to your systems. Also, countering and reducing the effects of threats by building in mitigations early, and ultimately, describing the complete security architecture of the system from a security perspective, highlighting where weaknesses might lie and where defenses are needed.
Okay. Can you walk us through the stages of the threat modeling process? How does it unfold systematically?
The process typically involves 7 crucial stages. First, asset identification. This is the initial step where an analyst identifies all valuable organizational assets from an adversary's perspective. These could be critical resources like customer databases, intellectual property, financial systems, confidential data, or even the continuous availability of a public-facing website. What would an attacker want to get or disrupt? What are the crown jewels?
After identifying what's valuable, what's next, understand the system itself.
Exactly. Then we move to system characterization. Here, you create a comprehensive architecture overview of the system you're analyzing. This involves gathering detailed information to identify specific areas that need to be addressed, such as data flows within the system, trust boundaries, where data crosses from less trusted to more trusted zones, external dependencies, any internal security notes, application functions, the technologies used, OS, web server, database, and potential adversary entry and exit points. The goal is to create a comprehensive logical system architecture diagram. How does this thing actually work?
Once characterized, how do we model it specifically for threats? Look at it with attacker eyes.
That's system modeling. In this stage, the analyst observes the system architecture thoroughly from an adversary's point of view. You decompose the architecture, breaking it down into basic modules based on traditional areas of vulnerabilities to create security profiles for each component. How can each piece be attacked? This can be done effectively using data flow diagrams, DFDs, or process flow diagrams, PFDs.
What's the practical difference between DFDs and PFDs for threat modeling? Which one should you use?
DFDs are a high-level way of representing the flow of data through a system. They are used to determine what data is considered input for potential attacks, systematically representing data flow, and helping identify threat paths and entry-exit points across trust boundaries. DFDs use specific symbols for processes, external entities, data stores, and trust boundaries. Great for see where data goes. PFDs, on the other hand, provide a visual representation that allows an analyst to decompose a process and view its components independently. They help navigate the system output at a component level, like modeling the security and functioning of an ATM machine by breaking down each transaction step. Better for understanding process logic. The choice depends on whether you're modeling data movement, DFD, or process execution, PFD. Sometimes you use both.
Okay, after modeling, we need to find the actual threats. That's threat determination and identification. Where do the threats come from?
Exactly. After thoroughly modeling the system, the analyst determines and identifies potential threats based on known vulnerabilities and weaknesses within the system components. Tactics here include using specific threat modeling methodologies like STRIDE, PASTA, DREAD, TRIKE, and VAST, which we'll discuss, consulting categorized threat lists like the OWASP Top 10 for web apps, or developing threat trees, also known as attack trees. A threat tree is a hierarchical diagram showing the complete attack methodology and different levels of attack activities on assets or targets. For example, it might show how an attacker could combine looking for shared sessions, exploiting browser cache data, and finding failed data validation to achieve a session hijacking attack or retrieve user credentials. It maps out attack paths.
And once we've identified threats, we need to know who is behind them, right? That's the attribution piece, linking threats to actors.
That brings us to threat profiling and attribution. This involves collecting information about the threat actor and building an analytic profile that describes their technological details, their typical goals, and their underlying motives. Who are these guys? What do they want? This is incredibly useful for attributing APTs, advanced persistent threats, specific malware families, or botnet operations. The profile can include attributes like a general description of the actor, their motive, AG, financial gain, data theft, espionage, hacktivism, their intent, intentional, accidental, malicious, their capability, technology, communication, resources, sponsors, ownership details, source signature, IP, MAC, known infrastructure, target details, specific components or resources targeted, their common operating methods, attack methodology or TTPs, and their ultimate objective. Tools like TAM threat analysis and modeling are used here to structure this information.
After all this identification, we need to prioritize. Not all threats are equal, and resources are limited. So, threat ranking.
Threat ranking involves classifying identified threats based on the level of risk they pose to organizational assets. This helps recognize which threats cause maximum damage and thus require priority countermeasures. Which ones do we fix first? Approaches can range from a simple formula, risk, probability damage potential, to more comprehensive models like the DRID model, which we'll discuss in more detail shortly. The goal is to allocate limited resources to the threats that matter most. Focus on the biggest risks.
And finally, all this hard work needs to be captured and preserved so it's not lost.
That's threat information documentation. After completing the entire process, from asset identification to threat ranking, the analyst must meticulously document all the extracted information. This includes attributes like the specific threat target, the risks involved, the attack methodologies observed or anticipated, the identified vulnerabilities, recommended mitigations, and the assigned risk level, often using specific standardized templates to ensure consistency and easy retrieval later. Write it down.
So how do we actually do threat modeling? We mentioned some names like STRIDE and PASTA. What are some of the key methodologies that analysts rely on?
Let's explore some of the most common threat modeling methodologies. The first and widely known one is STRIDE. It's an acronym that stands for spoofing, tampering, repudiation, information disclosure, denial of service, and elevation of privilege. This framework was proposed by Microsoft back in 1999 and is DFD-based, primarily used for application security during the design phase. It's excellent for finding design flaws early by asking, how could an attacker violate security properties using these threats?
Can you quickly elaborate on what each of those STRIDE categories means in practice? What kind of threats fit in each?
Certainly. Spoofing is impersonation, like an attacker faking an IP address, an ARP entry, or even a user identity, pretending to be someone or something else. Tampering is malicious data manipulation such as cross-site scripting, XSS, modifying web page content, or SQL injection altering database queries. Changing data illicitly. Repudiation refers to an attacker denying their actions by successfully hiding their footprints, making it impossible to prove they did something, covering their tracks so you can't blame them. Information disclosure is unauthorized access to sensitive information, like reading private files or intercepting confidential communications, seeing stuff they shouldn't. Denial of service is intentionally making a service unavailable to legitimate users, maybe by flooding it with traffic or crashing it, preventing legitimate use. And elevation of privilege means gaining deeper system access or higher permissions than originally authorized, like going from a regular user to an administrator, getting more power.
Okay, STRIDE is very focused on the types of attacks. Next up, PASTA. That's quite an acronym. What's that about?
PASTA stands for Process for Attack Simulation and Threat Analysis. This is a 7-stage, risk-based approach for dynamic threat detection, enumeration, and scoring, adopted fundamentally from an attacker's viewpoint. It aligns business objectives with technical requirements. Its primary goals include increasing visibility of cyber threat risks, expanding security regions, controlling application security across its lifecycle, integrating with the SDLC, and enhancing overall security maturity. It's a very comprehensive, structured methodology. The 7 stages are definition of objectives, business context, definition of technical scope, what are we modeling, application decomposition and analysis, understanding the components, threat analysis using Intel and STRIDE, weakness and vulnerability analysis, finding flaws, attack modeling and simulation, mapping attacks, and risk analysis management, prioritizing and mitigating. It's quite involved.
We also have TRIKE, another interesting name.
TRIKE is an open-source risk management approach that takes a different tack. It uses a requirements model where stakeholders dictate acceptable risk levels for different assets, often using use case diagrams to define expected behavior and value. It then moves to an implementation model, DFD representation of data flows, a threat model which handles identified risks, detects vulnerabilities, and uses threat trees based on actors, assets, actions, and finally a risk model to quantify risk based on probability and impact and build detailed risk profiles. It's built around managing risk from requirements through to implementation.
And VAST, that sounds like it's built for modern development environments, Agile and DevOps.
VST stands for Visual, Agile, and Simple Threat Modeling. It's specifically designed to be scalable across diverse infrastructure and DevOps environments, and integrates exceptionally well with Agile development methodologies. Automation is key here. VAST employs 2 main threat models. An application threat model, which is PFD-based for development teams, focusing on system features and interactions, and an operational threat model, which uses data flow from an attacker's perspective for infrastructure teams. It uses PFDs over DFDs because they believe it better addresses both development and operational teams' concerns simultaneously. It aims for integration across the lifecycle.
And what about DREAD? We mentioned it earlier for ranking threats. How does that work?
DREAD is an acronym for damage, reproducibility, exploitability, affected users, and discoverability. It's a straightforward sorting scheme for calculating, comparing, and ranking the extent or risk of a threat. The risk is calculated as the sum of these 5 factors, each rated, say, 1 to 10, divided by 5, providing an overall risk score, typically on a scale of 0 to 10. Each component, how bad is the damage? How easy is it to reproduce? How easy is it to exploit? How many users are affected? How easy is it to discover the flaw? Has its own scale, from minimal to severe, making it relatively easy to quickly assess and compare threats against each other. It's a quick and dirty way to prioritize when you have many threats.
Finally, there's OSUTAV. This one sounds more formal.
OCTAVE stands for Operationally Critical Threat, Asset, and Vulnerability Evaluation. This is a more heavyweight, comprehensive methodology for risk recognition and planning countermeasures, often used in larger organizations with mature risk management practices. It involved 3 stages: building asset-based threat profiles, what matters most and what threatens it, identifying infrastructure vulnerabilities, how can those assets be reached, and developing a comprehensive security strategy and plans. What are we going to do about it? It focuses heavily on recognizing critical assets, identifying network access paths and vulnerabilities, and devising protection and mitigation plans based on thorough evaluations involving business and IT stakeholders. It's a big commitment.
With all these powerful methodologies, what are some of the practical tools that analysts can use to put threat modeling into practice? Make it more manageable.
There are several excellent tools that facilitate threat modeling. Microsoft Threat Modeling Tool is a well-known example, and it's free. It's DFD-based and helps identify threats using the STRIDE framework. Designed with developers in mind, it focuses on design analysis and can integrate with issue trackers like Azure DevOps. Good for application focus.
And for the VAST approach you just mentioned, is there a specific tool?
For VAST, you have Threat Modeler. This is a PFD-based modeling tool that specifically uses the VAST approach. It boasts a modifiable threat library and is designed for collective organizational use across various IT ecosystems, including web, cloud, mobile, IoT, and even cyber-physical systems. It's built for enterprise-scale collaboration and automation. Then there's SecureCAD Professional. This tool is for risk and IT security architects, allowing them to design virtual models of IT infrastructures, simulate various attack paths, and test mitigations before implementing them in a live environment, like a cyber war game. Its benefits include being proactive, non-disruptive, and holistic, helping identify critical attack paths and structural weaknesses in a virtual sandbox before the bad guys do.
Another one I've heard of is Irius Risk. How does that work?
Irius Risk is an integrated console for creating threat models and managing application security risk throughout the SDLC. It uses a questionnaire-based approach to drive threat modeling. This makes it easier for non-security experts, like developers, to derive security requirements automatically based on the features they're building, ensuring consistent output and compliance. It aims to embed security earlier. Additionally, other notable tools include SD Elements, similar focus on requirements, Threat Dragon, an open-source OS project, and Trike, which also has an open-source tool alongside its methodology. Lots of options depending on your needs and budget.
Moving on, how can we enhance the threat analysis process even further? We mentioned the Diamond Model framework earlier as a way to characterize threats. Can we dig into that a bit more?
The Diamond model of intrusion analysis is indeed another powerful way to characterize organized threats, track their evolution, sort them, and figure out how to counter them. It's a very intuitive model. It consists of 4 basic components, or nodes, forming the points of a diamond: the adversary, who did it; their capabilities, what did they use; the infrastructure, what did they use it on from; and the victim, who did they target. Analysts often use this model in reverse, or pivot between the points. Starting from a victim or a capability, like malware, you work backward or sideways to identify the other components, like the adversary or infrastructure. Each unique event or intrusion is considered a diamond with its own specific components linked together.
Can you give us a quick example of how pivoting through these components works in a real-world scenario? Connecting the dots on the diamond.
Imagine this. An analyst identifies a piece of malware on a victim machine. That's the victim. They might have a specific hash, say 067GH 606 C28 C306 F3931282237 E75V440. That hash represents a specific capability, the malware itself. From there, the analyst might discover that the malware contains a C2 domain, for instance, info.hackeroffice.com. This domain represents the infrastructure. Next, the analyst resolves the IP address of that C2 domain, revealing 142.91.132.223, which is another piece of infrastructure. Finally, resolving that IP address, perhaps through a WHOIS query, or passive DNS, reveals adversary details, showing the registrant is samplehacker@certifiedhacker.com. This chain of pivoting through the diamond's nodes helps unveil the full threat picture, moving from a single observation, victim, capability, to details about the adversary via the infrastructure.
That's a great example of connecting the dots from a tiny clue to a much bigger picture using that framework. Very practical. After all this analysis, we've gathered IOC's indicators of compromise. But I imagine they're not always immediately useful on their own, right? An IP address is just an IP address without more info.
Exactly. It's the analyst's crucial responsibility to enrich the indicators with context. This process takes raw IOCs and adds layers of information that reveal their true severity, relevance, and validity. Enrichment links known indicator information with publicly or privately available data, dramatically enhancing its value. Is this IP known bad? Who uses it? What campaigns is it linked to? This crucial context could include what other hashes are related, the exact time the indicator was captured, similar incidents that have occurred, known adversary TTPs, details about similar infrastructure used by attackers, and common targeting patterns, making the indicator smarter.
And are there specific approaches to linking this information, perhaps using the diamond model concepts you just mentioned, different angles for enrichment?
Yes, you can structure your enrichment efforts based on the diamond model's nodes. For instance, you could take a victim-focused approach, analyzing victim-related data, like industry, geography, technology used, for specific vulnerabilities or targeting trends. Why us? Or a capability-focused approach, analyzing threat capabilities, malware family exploits used, to determine potential victims and the organizational impact if those capabilities were deployed against you. What can this do? An infrastructure-focused approach involves monitoring the threat actor's infrastructure, domains, IPs, servers, to extract details about their support technology, hosting providers, and connections to other campaigns. Where do they operate? And finally, an adversary-focused approach involves direct monitoring of adversary activities, forums, C2 traffic patterns, to gather granular details on their intent, capabilities, and even their sponsors. Who are they and what are they planning? Each angle adds depth and makes your IOCs far more actionable.
So we've enriched our indicators with all this vital context. The next logical step would be validating and prioritizing threat indicators. Why is this so important? Surely all threats are urgent. Or maybe not.
It's crucial because raw threat indicators can be redundant, obsolete, or represent very low priority threats, like generic spam campaigns that pose minimal risk to your specific organization. Organizations need to use rigorous validation and prioritization criteria to filter out the noise and focus on truly relevant threats. What actually matters to us? Security groups prioritize threats based on their specific relevance to their business, their geographical location, the applications they run, their regulatory environment, and their overall risk profile. You can't chase everything, so you have to prioritize effectively. Focus on limited resources.
How do they go about validating and prioritizing in a structured way? What methods are used?
There are three primary complementary methods. First, risk scores. Assigning numerical scores to indicators helps feed SIEMs and other automated tools for categorization and prioritization. Is this a 9 out of 10 risk or a 2? It also enables human analysts to make rapid, informed decisions. These scores can be derived from automated technical analysis, reasonable sandboxing a malicious action to measure its severity, statistical analysis, for example, how often an indicator is associated with confirmed attacks, and critically, human assessment, considering factors like vulnerability to a threat and its potential business impact. Second, tags for context. These are incredibly useful for both automated systems and human analysts to quickly identify whether an indicator is an isolated event or part of a complex ongoing attack, adding meaningful labels. You add threat and technical tags that provide immediate meaning. For example, a financial tag for malware specifically targeting ATM systems, a Europe and Russia tag for credential theft campaigns active in those regions, or a low PPWS family tag for specific malware known for harvesting credentials. These tags provide immediate actionable context at a glance.
And finally, human assessment. That sounds like it would be the ultimate override, the gut check.
Yes, despite all the automation and scoring, there's sometimes no substitute for human judgment. Experienced threat analysts manually assess risks for immediate action, especially for nuanced threats that automated systems might misinterpret or miss entirely. Some threats, particularly novel ones or those involving complex geopolitical factors, can only be identified and assessed effectively by a human expert who understands the unique context of the organization and the broader threat landscape. The human brain is still the best correlation engine sometimes. #5. Overview of fine-tuning threat analysis.
It's clear that data collection and analysis are continuous, evolving processes in cybersecurity. The threats change, the tools change, the business changes. So our methodologies can't be static. They have to be flexible and adaptive.
Exactly. This brings us to fine-tuning threat analysis. This is defined as manipulating specific parameters of your analysis model, your tools, and your processes to continually comply with changing intelligence requirements. The goal is to achieve better performance and output consistently. It's not a one-and-done setup, it's a continuous improvement cycle, like constantly adjusting your sails to catch the wind perfectly, or tuning an engine for peak performance.
What are the main benefits of this continuous fine-tuning? Why bother constantly tweaking things?
Fine-tuning helps you achieve consistency in both your analysis output and the intelligence products you generate, making sure the quality stays high. Crucially, it also enables you to rapidly identify and adapt to new intelligence requirements as the threat landscape or your organization's priorities inevitably evolve. It ensures your efforts remain relevant and impactful over time. Are we still focused on the right things?
One of the immediate benefits of fine-tuning would be identifying and removing noise. We touched on this with prioritization, but it's ongoing. Not all threats pose the same risk, and dealing with irrelevant alerts can be a huge drain on resources. How do we tackle that continually?
You're absolutely right. Prioritizing alerts is paramount, and fine-tuning helps maintain that focus. This eliminates unwanted noise, ensures you're generating truly actionable intelligence, ensures resources are used effectively, and critically, avoids alert fatigue and false positives, which can numb the SOC team. You can prioritize based on a cost versus impact matrix, classifying threats as high, moderate, or low based on how they affect our industry versus our company. This helps define clear actions like block, alert, investigate, or investigate when time permits, so your team knows exactly how to respond and you continually refine those thresholds based on results.
We also need to be wary of identifying and removing logical fallacies. What exactly are these errors in reasoning, and why are they dangerous in threat intelligence? How do they creep in?
Logical fallacies are errors in implied logic perceptions or conclusions that are analyzed as logically incorrect. They defy the reasonable legality of a theory and can certify its unreliability. Basically, flawed arguments. Common reasons for these fallacies in threat intelligence include misjudging information value, thinking a source is better than it is, gathering irrelevant information from feeds, which just adds noise and distracts, diverting focus from critical indicators onto less important ones, consuming too much non-relevant data, leading to data overload and missed threats, and simply failing to utilize the data efficiently. These fallacies can lead you down rabbit holes, or worse, to incorrect conclusions about risk or attribution, believing something for the wrong reasons.
And how do we remedy these logical fallacies to ensure our analysis is sound? How do we catch ourselves?
We need a systematic approach, often involving peer review or structured techniques like ACH. First, rigorously examine information sources and assumptions to detect direct threats and actively correlate internal data with external threat intelligence. Challenge the premises. Second, ensure that the threat intelligence you're consuming is truly relevant to your organization's specific context and threat landscape, performing risk-based prioritization at every step. Ask "so what" for every piece of intel. Third, use relevant context data to link threat feeds to organizational needs for faster, more accurate decisions. Fourth, ensure you have structured analytical techniques and structured feeds for continuous monitoring and analytics, making it harder for fallacies to creep in unnoticed. Process helps fight flawed logic.
Beyond logical errors, we also need to guard against identifying and removing cognitive biases. What exactly is a cognitive bias in this context, and why is it so insidious for an analyst? This is about our own thinking patterns, right?
Right. A cognitive bias is a psychological phenomenon where analysts might become stubborn or implicitly biased toward their own proposed theories or initial hunches. Our brains take shortcuts, and sometimes they're wrong. They tend to unconsciously seek information that confirms their existing hypotheses and inadvertently ignore or downplay contradictory evidence or alternative theories from others. This is insidious because it can lead analysts to see what they expect or want to see rather than what the evidence actually indicates. We fool ourselves.
Can you give us some examples of common cognitive biases that threat intelligence analysts might face? Which mental traps should we watch out for?
Certainly. There's correspondence bias, also called fundamental attribution error, overemphasizing personality-centered reasons for others' actions, like that attacker is just evil. When situational factors might be more relevant, they were likely following orders or using a standard toolkit. Confirmation bias, probably the most famous one, actively seeking information that proves your own theory and ignoring anything that disproves it. Looking for validation. Self-serving bias, where an analyst might claim more credit for successes. I found that indicator than failures. The tool missed that one. Belief bias, preferring beliefs over logical evaluation. If a conclusion fits your beliefs, you accept it, even if the logic is flawed. Framing, limiting thoughts to the beliefs of one's existing theory, shutting out new ideas or interpretations of the data. Tunnel vision. And hindsight bias, the "I knew it all along" effect, claiming past predictions were correct without actual proof, which prevents learning from mistakes. It's a constant battle against our own human nature.
That's a powerful point about continually challenging our own instincts and thought processes. So how do we debias our analysis? What strategies can we employ to counteract these mental shortcuts?
There are several powerful debiasing strategies that draw from various fields. Decision theory helps by providing frameworks focused on human nature, reasoning, judgment, choice, and economic utility. Thinking about choices systematically. Game theory deals with strategic decision-making in multi-step interactions, allowing analysts to model attacker-defender dynamics more objectively, considering the adversary's likely countermoves. Behavioral economics helps us understand how social, cognitive, and emotional factors influence choices, both ours and the adversary's. Why do people click on phishing links? Cognitive psychology involves techniques like recognizing patterns from similar past projects, creating probability distributions, comparing current situations to reference classes of past ones, reference class forecasting, reducing reliance on gut feelings. Machine learning is increasingly used to examine human learning patterns for developing similar machine capabilities, such as artificial neural networks, which can sometimes flag anomalies or patterns that human biases might overlook. And finally, human reliability engineering focuses on enhancing human performance consistency by understanding complex circumstances and guiding decisions through structured processes, checklists, and frameworks like ACH, making the process robust against individual bias.
That's a lot for humans to keep in mind, and it sounds like a constant mental effort, a lot of self-awareness needed. So it makes perfect sense that we'd want to automate threat analysis processes. How can we ease this intensive impulses process through automation?
Automation is absolutely key to easing the burden and increasing the speed, consistency, and accuracy of threat analysis. First, employ automated threat analysis software. This software can perform a wide range of tasks, from initial data collection and normalization all the way to indicator enrichment, scoring, and even initial intelligence generation, streamlining the entire threat analysis workflow. Let the machines do the grunt work. Second, employ automated SIEMs. Modern advanced SIEMs perform sophisticated threat analysis operations, including intelligent alerting based on correlation rules and forensic analysis capabilities. They have the capability to make appropriate initial decisions based on acquired indicators, significantly easing the threat intelligence process by correlating massive amounts of data in real time, finding needles in haystacks. And third, employ tagging the acquired indicators. This is a smart yet relatively simple mechanism where relevant tags are applied to indicators automatically or manually to make identification, retrieval, filtering, and correlation simple and effective. These tags integrate seamlessly with tools and software like SIEMs and SOAR, security orchestration, automation response platforms, simplifying intelligence gathering, sharing, and filtering, ensuring that the right information reaches the right systems and people quickly, making the data machine readable and context-rich.
So if we're going to use automated software, we need to pick the right tools. What essential capabilities or criteria should analysts use to develop criteria for a threat analysis software? What should be on the checklist?
Analysts must develop specific, robust criteria to ensure that chosen software delivers fast, precise, and accurate analysis that truly meets their organizational needs. It's not just about features, but about effectiveness. A good threat analysis tool, or threat intelligence platform, TIP, should ideally have the ability to normalize diverse data formats from many feeds, easily import and export threat intelligence in standard formats like StickStack2, structure unstructured data like text reports into usable formats, and follow a clear intelligence processing workflow: collection, enrichment, analysis, dissemination. Beyond that, it should link analysis with virtualization for safe execution, sandboxing, perform malware analysis with integrated sandbox technology, and facilitate the sharing and dissemination of threat intelligence internally and externally, like the ISACs. Crucially, it must flexibly integrate with your existing internal security mechanisms like firewalls, IDs, EDRs, and SIEMs via APIs, and be able to generate comprehensive reports and provide clear performance, operational, and value metrics to justify its use and demonstrate ROI. Does actually help.
This raises the idea of employing advanced threat analysis techniques. We've seen advancements in ML and AI pop up throughout this deep dive. How does machine learning-based threat analysis fit into the picture more formally?
Machine learning, ML, significantly reduces false positives and dramatically enhances the analysis process, especially at scale. It's conceptualized from pattern recognition and is inherently capable of self-learning from data patterns without being explicitly programmed for every specific task or threat. This enables automated threat analysis to detect organizational threats much more effectively, even novel ones or subtle variations. With the growing variety and volume of data and computational capabilities, ML is becoming an indispensable tool for analyzing bulk data, spotting subtle patterns, predicting better outputs, and performing complex comparative analysis at speeds human analysts simply cannot match. Finding the unknown unknowns.
What are some of the key features and benefits of ML-based analysis for a CTIA analyst? Where does it shine?
Its features include augmenting human capability by automating the analysis of vast data sets, freeing up human analysts for more critical problem solving that requires human intuition and complex reasoning. Let humans do what humans do best. It's excellent for identifying insider threats through anomaly detection and unsupervised learning spotting behavior that deviates from the norm without prior definition. ML can also immediately spot data breaches by detecting unusual data movement patterns, enable faster threat hunting and investigations by pointing analysts towards the most likely suspicious activities, and lead to highly efficient SOC operations by automatically sorting billions of events to highlight the truly critical ones. Reducing alert fatigue. In terms of types, ML broadly falls into supervised learning from labeled data, unsupervised, finding patterns in unlabeled data, semi-supervised, mix of both, and reinforcement learning, learning through trial and error. For a good ML system in security, you need excellent data preparation ability, a mix of basic and advanced algorithms appropriate for security data, robust automation and recursive processing, system scalability to handle huge data volumes, and the ability for collective or ensemble modeling, combining multiple models.
Are there any specific ML tools that stand out for threat analysis? Something accessible.
Microsoft Azure Machine Learning Studio is a powerful example, especially for accessibility. It's a browser-based, visual drag-and-drop environment that requires minimal or no coding, making it accessible even to analysts who aren't dedicated data scientists. As a fully managed cloud service, it allows analysts to easily build, test, deploy, and share predictive analytics solutions like anomaly detection models or threat scoring algorithms as web services, readily consumable by custom applications or business intelligence tools like Excel or Power BI, democratizing ML for security.
That's incredible, giving that kind of power to a broader group of analysts. And combining computing power with human-like thinking is something we've also touched on. Tell us more about cognitive-based threat analysis. How is that different from ML?
Cognitive analysis is an advanced data analysis technique that truly does aim to combine the power of computing machines with human-like thinking capabilities, including understanding context, learning, and reasoning. It often goes beyond pattern matching. It's especially useful for structuring the vast amounts of unstructured data that organizations collect, things like incident reports, security blogs, forum discussions, or human intelligence reports, which is often incredibly difficult for humans or traditional ML to process effectively at scale. Understanding natural language and context. Cognitive computing integrates numerous applications and data sources to find hidden intelligence and context, connecting disparate data points with advanced analytics for effective decision-making. Crucially, cognitive computing isn't just pre-programmed. It learns, reasons, interacts naturally, and evolves from the collected data, much like a human brain does. It tries to understand.
Is there a specific tool for cognitive-based threat analysis as well? An example.
Yes. Cisco Cognitive Threat Analytics, now part of Cisco Secure Cloud Analytics, is a prime example. It helps analysts quickly detect and respond to sophisticated, clandestine attacks that are already underway or attempting to establish a presence, often by analyzing user and device behavior. It pinpoints attacks before sensitive data can be exfiltrated and identifies both known and unique threats by looking for deviations from normal behavior patterns. It analyzes web traffic, endpoint data, and network data using ML and behavioral modeling. It then provides a summary of the threat, often in plain English, with recommended remediation actions, significantly helping to eliminate false positive alerts by focusing on confirmed malicious behavior.
What are some of its key features and benefits that make it so effective? How does it work under the hood?
Its features are quite advanced. It excels at tracking data extraction, even in HTTPS encrypted traffic, without decryption, by using statistical modeling of network traffic patterns and metadata. Looking at flows, not just content, it detects DGA domain generation algorithm-generated malicious domain names, which are commonly used by malware for C2. It tracks exploit kit infections and behavior. It consistently prevents malicious tunneling of data through HTTP and HTTPS requests. It also intelligently filters C2 communications from normal network traffic and other potentially noisy processes like Tor, again, often without needing decryption, by focusing on behavioral characteristics of the communication. The benefits are real-time threat identification based on behavior, proactive prevention of sensitive data extraction, easy security setup integration with existing infrastructure, and robust false positive elimination, which is a huge time saver for SOC teams. Focusing on high-fidelity alerts, #6, understanding threat intelligence evaluation.
So we've diligently collected data, analyzed it with sophisticated techniques, statistical, ACH, ML, cognitive, and fine-tuned our processes to eliminate noise and bias. We have what we think is good intelligence. Now, before taking any action or disseminating this hard-won intelligence, we need to verify its value. This brings us to threat intelligence evaluation. How good is it, really?
Exactly. This is the crucial step before action, before sharing, and before making critical decisions based on the intelligence. It ensures that the analysis output truly meets the organizational requirements and that the intelligence is fit for purpose, accurate, relevant, timely, and complete enough. If it doesn't meet the bar, the causes are analyzed and processes are fine-tuned, creating that feedback loop we talked about. Why did we miss this? Why was this intel wrong? This rigorous evaluation leads to accurate and precise conclusions, enabling analysts, security professionals, and management to confidently design, modify, and deploy effective security mechanisms based on reliable intel. Trust but verify.
It sounds like aligning the evaluation with the project's planned objectives and the intended audience is absolutely critical. Otherwise, even great intelligence might miss its mark or be presented in the wrong way.
It is. The analyst must actively evaluate the gathered threat intelligence based on intended objective. This means comparing the intelligence with the planned objectives established at the project's beginning, the intelligence requirements, and tailoring it to its specific audience and stakeholders. Who needs this and what do they need to know? For example, external deliverables might be enriched IOCs with TTPs formatted for threat sharing groups like an ISAC, or open threat exchanges using standards like SDIX. The evaluation criteria might be accuracy and completeness of the technical details. Internal deliverables would be comprehensive threat intelligence reports in plain, business-friendly text for top management or third-party clients. The evaluation here focuses on clarity, relevance to business risk, and actionable recommendations. And actionable deliverables are often raw IOCs delivered directly to security teams via APIs for immediate integration with existing security measures like firewalls or SIEMs to prevent future threats. Evaluation is simple. Did it block the threat? Was it timely? Each requires a different evaluation lens and a different measure of success.
And how do we evaluate these different types of intelligence effectively? Are there specific techniques or criteria for each level: strategic, operational, tactical, technical?
Yes, we have specific techniques and criteria tailored for each type of intelligence. For evaluation of strategic threat intelligence, which supports senior management decisions on long-term risk and investment, quality is often based on three factors. Accuracy, though difficult to calculate precisely for future predictions, it relies on general observations, source reliability checks, and cross-source comparison. Degree of impact, its capability in truly supporting strategic decisions and fulfilling high-level requirements. Did it change our strategy? And timeliness, ensuring the information is still valid, fresh, and usable for long-term planning, not outdated.
What about operational threat intelligence? How do we know if that's effective? The stuff about current campaigns.
The evaluation of operational threat intelligence focuses on its insights into upcoming attacks and helping prioritize prevention focus areas. Did it give us warning? The ideal scenario is if it accurately predicts an attack for timely mitigation and provides sufficient detail for security teams to act. More commonly, it provides detailed insight into active adversary campaigns, their TTPs, and targeted vulnerabilities for future security enhancements, and helps track ongoing incidents. Did it help us understand the who, what, when, where of current threats? Evaluation of tactical threat intelligence assesses the effectiveness of the information, feeds the specific TTPs and tools intel used in defensive mechanisms. Did knowing their tactics help us improve our detections or defenses? This includes evaluating recommendations for defense upgrades based on the tactical intel. It involves analysis of rare, unseen, or previously used attacker methodologies. Did it help us catch something novel or adapt to their changing methods? It's about assessing the effectiveness of your existing defenses against known and emerging tactics and how well the tactical intel helped tune them. Finally, evaluation of technical threat intelligence, the IOCs, focuses on prevention techniques that were successfully executed based on this intel. Did this IP block work? Did this hash signature detect the malware? It ensures the efficient use of potentially expensive commercial feeds and platforms and must be highly specific to particular threats, attacker methodologies, and resources to justify its cost and utility. Did that IOC prevent an attack, and was it worth the investment? We measure things like IOC hit rates and false positive rates.
Once that intelligence is thoroughly evaluated, the analyst has concrete, validated intelligence. What's the next critical step, especially before sharing it broadly? You mentioned attribution earlier.
Right. The next step, often done in parallel with evaluation or just before dissemination, is threat attribution. This is where threats and attacks can be attributed to specific sources, giving crucial context about who is behind the activity. Knowing the who helps understand the why and how. We have several types of attributions, each with increasing levels of specificity and confidence. Group attribution, based on common malicious actor groups, like APT28 or FIN7, and their known methodologies, linking activity to a known cluster. Campaign attribution, based on specific malware used or campaign strategies observed, even if the group isn't definitively known. Linking different intrusions together as part of the same operation. Intrusion set attribution, based on unique intrusion patterns or combinations of TTPs that strongly suggest a common operator, even if they don't fit a known named group. Finding new clusters of activity. And for the highest level of detail, true attribution, which aims to identify a specific person, organization, society, or country sponsoring an attack. This is often very difficult and requires multiple sources of evidence. Closely related to that is nation-state attribution, for attacks clearly sponsored by one nation against another, which carries significant geopolitical implications and requires very high confidence. This helps us understand motivation, capabilities, and potential intent. But attribution is hard and also requires careful caveats. Hashtag tag 7.
So once all this intelligence is extracted, thoroughly evaluated, attributed where possible, what happens next? It can't just sit there in a report, right? We need to operationalize it, make it useful repeatedly. Absolutely not. Intelligence is useless if it isn't used or remembered. Documentation and storage are crucial for identified threats relevant to the organization and for turning intelligence into repeatable action. This leads us to developing runbooks and creating a robust knowledge base, making intel actionable and persistent. Tell us about runbooks. What exactly are they, and why are they so vital for a security team, especially during an incident?
A runbook, sometimes called a playbook, documents the entire response process for a specific threat type or incident scenario, from its initial identification all the way through post-incident activities and lessons learned. It details roles, responsibilities, and specific actions for everyone involved: the SOC analyst, the incident responder, the sysadmin, legal, comms. Think of it as a comprehensive, step-by-step instruction manual or checklist for a particular security event, like ransomware outbreak or phishing credential compromise. The advantages are numerous. They help identify solutions efficiently, eradicate guesswork and uncertainty during stressful incident handling, ensure appropriate escalation paths are followed consistently, assign resources effectively, and quickly accumulate data for diagnoses, leading to highly efficient threat handling and increased productivity. They also demonstrate the maturity level of a threat intelligence management program, showing you have a plan for almost anything.
Right.
Reduces panic, ensures consistency.
So they bring order to chaos during a crisis. What are the key questions an analyst should consider when developing these runbooks? What makes a good runbook?
You need to answer 3 core questions clearly and concisely to make a runbook truly effective. First, what information is included? What defines this scenario? This means delving into details about the threat itself, its typical sources, frequency, potential impact, specific affected data or systems, any failed controls that allowed it, whether its nature was unintentional or maliciously intended. Define the trigger. Second, why should the organization care? What's the potential impact? This involves clearly understanding and articulating the potential impact of this specific threat on the organization. This could include impacts on revenue-generating units, user efficacy, overall productivity, timing considerations like end of quarter, regulatory fines, reputational damage, and the organization's tolerance level for this type of risk. Make the business case for action. And third, what should the organization do? The actual steps. This is the actionable core, outlining the specific steps that need to be taken. By whom? Roles, not names. And how to progress through investigation, containment, eradication, recovery, and future planning lessons learned. It's the playbook for action, step by step.
And what are the practical steps to actually customize these runbooks for specific needs within an organization, making them fit our environment?
You start by developing new runbooks based on the highest priority intelligence needs identified from your prioritization and threat modeling. Focus on the most likely or most impactful scenarios first. Each runbook should include a clear summary answering the what, why, and how of the threat scenario. You then customize the specific response steps, tools to use, communication plans, and escalation processes to fit your organization's specific structure, technology stack, and personnel. It's crucial to update the runbook's review history, test it regularly through tabletop exercises, and assign a clear title holder or owner to the document for accountability and continuous improvement based on real incidents or exercises. It's a living document, not shelfware.
Beyond individual runbooks for specific scenarios, we need a centralized, accessible place for all this intelligence, the IOCs, the reports, the TTPs. How do we create an accessible threat knowledge base, the organizational brain for threats?
A knowledge repository or knowledge base, often implemented within a threat intelligence platform or TIP, is vital for the effective management, correlation, and dissemination of threat intelligence throughout the organization. It acts as a central brain, connecting past and present incidents. It helps analysts document and share intelligence consistently. It's frequently accessed by SOC, IR, vulnerability management, and forensic teams for rapid data correlation during investigations. Have we seen this IP before? What happened last time? It stores enriched IOCs, malware analysis reports, adversary profiles, TTPs mapped to frameworks like MITRE, ATT, and CK, and detailed attack investigation reports, creating a historical record and a powerful reference library. It connects everything.
What kind of technologies support building such a crucial knowledge base? Is it just a shared drive?
Hopefully not just a shared drive. Organizations can leverage various technologies. Dedicated threat intelligence platforms, TIC IPs are common. Personalized wikis for easy content creation and linking. Customized APIs for integration between tools. Robust document management systems. SharePoint for collaborative environments. Or traditional database management systems for highly structured data. Crucially, whatever technology is used, it needs to integrate seamlessly with your SIEMs, SOAR platforms, EDRs, firewalls, and other security controls via APIs to automatically pull context and push actionable intelligence efficiently. Automation is key.
And what key functionalities or inclusions should a good threat knowledge repository have? What makes a tip really useful?
It needs several critical functionalities. Strong pivoting capabilities to easily contextualize and correlate data across different entries. Show me everything related to this actor or this malware family or this victim asset. Robust content structuring using standards like SDIX 2.x to store intelligence in a consistent, machine-readable, and human-retrievable format. Efficient data management to easily modify, archive, or delete old, irrelevant, or obsolete data based on confidence scores or age. Data lifecycle management. A clear protection ranking or data handling instructions like TLP traffic light protocol for sensitive data, dictating who can access what and how it can be shared. The ability to provide real-time news feeds or alerts on relevant topics. Functionality for evaluating past performance of intelligence. How useful was this source or indicator? And of course, comprehensive searchable functionality for all indicators, entities, and intelligence reports. Easy to get info in, easy to get info out.
So once we have a knowledge base, how do we organize and store cyber threat information effectively within it? What specific details should be meticulously captured for each piece of intel?
Information from various sources, open source, external partners, commercial threat feeds, internal analysis needs careful, consistent organization, often using standardized fields within the TIPI or knowledge base. The knowledge base should store granular details like the exact source of an indicator and its reliability rating. Establish rules for its use and sharing. TLP level, the precise date and time it was collected and last verified, its estimated lifetime or validity period, confidence score. It's also vital to note whether attacks related to an indicator specifically targeted certain organizations, industries, or geographic regions. If an indicator is associated with recognized vulnerability standards like CWE, CVE, CCE, or CPE records, linking indicators to vulnerabilities. Details about threat actors or groups, using standard naming conventions if possible, their aliases, observed TTPs mapped to ATT and CCRA, suspected motives intent, and targeted individuals, systems, or data types are also essential for painting a complete picture over time, building that long-term adversary understanding.
And what about securing the knowledge base itself? It sounds like it could be a hugely valuable target for adversaries if compromised. All your intel in one place.
Absolutely. Protecting the threat intelligence platform or knowledge base itself is paramount. Effective security measures include implementing strong access controls based on roles and the principle of least privilege. Multi-factor authentication is a must, ensuring secure configurations for the underlying systems, OS, database, web server. Performing regular tested backups, timely patching of operating systems and applications powering the platform, and rigorously following best practices for secure software development if it's a custom-built system. Finally, organizations must establish clear disposition policies for data retention, defining whether threat indicators are kept short-term or long-term, and whether they're available online or offline archived to comply with regulations like GDPR and internal needs. How long do we keep this stuff, and how do we get rid of it securely? #tag8. Overview of threat intelligence tools.
With all this information to collect, analyze, evaluate, store, and integrate, we absolutely need to know what tools are available to help us manage this complexity. What are some of the key threat intelligence tools out there that a CTIA analyst should be aware of? The platforms that bring it all together.
There's a robust and ever-evolving ecosystem of tools designed to support threat intelligence operations, ranging from open-source projects to large commercial platforms. One prominent example is Alien Vault USM Anywhere, now part of AT&T Cybersecurity. It's a unified security management platform that combines SIEM capabilities with threat detection, incident response, and compliance management across cloud, on-premises, and hybrid environments. It's especially powerful because it's supported by its Open Threat Exchange, OTX community, for global threat identification and sharing of IOCs, integrated platform approach.
What about IBM X-Force Exchange? That's a big name in threat intel.
IBM X-Force Exchange is another significant player, focused more purely on threat intelligence. It's a cloud-based platform for consuming, sharing, and acting on threat intelligence. It allows analysts to rapidly research global threats using IBM's vast data sources, aggregate diverse intelligence feeds, and collaborate with experts. It leverages both human-generated insights from IBM's research teams and machine-generated intelligence. It offers access to vast datasets, a collaborative platform, and an easy-to-use interface for both individual analysts and large teams. Strong on research and data.
And Threat Connect, what's their angle?
Threat Connect positions itself as a threat intelligence platform, TIP, designed specifically to help analysts understand adversaries, automate workflows using intelligence, and mitigate threats faster. It emphasizes integrating threat intelligence into the entire security process. It's a scalable suite of products built on a platform designed for extensibility, allowing organizations to proactively find threats relevant to them, evaluate risks in their specific context using scoring and prioritization, and automate mitigation actions through integrations. Focus on operationalizing intel.
We also have Surfwatch Threat Analyst. How does that fit in?
Surfwatch Threat Analyst, now part of Fortress Fish Labs, is often positioned as an easy-to-use SaaS product that delivers strategic and operational threat intelligence, particularly focused on external threats and brand protection. It helps organizations identify adversarial opportunities targeting their brand, executives, or infrastructure, and proactively mitigate cyber risks by continuously collecting, monitoring, and tracking threats from the open and dark web. Crucially, it classifies and links cyber event impact to specific business aspects, such as brand reputation, supply chain risks, or data leakage. More external focus.
Finally, Autofocus. That name suggests speed and clarity. What's its specialty?
Autofocus, from Palo Alto Networks, is a contextual threat intelligence service tightly integrated with their security platform. It accelerates analysis, correlation, and prevention workflows by leveraging data from Palo Alto Networks' global sensor network. It automatically prioritizes unique, targeted attacks with rich context, allowing security teams to respond to critical attacks faster without requiring significant additional IT security resources. It tells you not just that a malicious event occurred on your firewall or endpoint, but why and who might be behind it, like the specific malware family, campaign, or malicious actor, providing invaluable context directly within the Palo Alto ecosystem. Strong integration plays.
And beyond these, I know there's a whole host of additional tools available to help analysts. Many, many options.
Indeed, the landscape is rich with options, and choosing depends heavily on specific needs and budget. While we can't detail every single one, other notable commercial tools include Recorded Future Threat Intelligence Platform, FireEye Eyesight Intelligence, now Mandy and Google, Logarithm Threat Lifecycle Management, TLM, McAfee Global Threat Intelligence, part of Trellix, Anomaly Threat Stream, RSA NetWitness Platform, and Critical Stack Intel. On the open source side, there are fantastic tools like MISP, Malware Information Sharing Platform and Threat Sharing, Yeti, OpenCTI, as well as visualization tools like Kibana, part of the Elastic Stack, data processing frameworks like StoQ, and aggregators like MindMelt, though development has slowed. Your official study guide contains a comprehensive list and deeper dives into their specific features, but the key is to understand the capabilities you need: collection, analysis, sharing, integration, and then select the tools that best match your organizational requirements and maturity level. Hashtag key learning points and recap.
Wow, that was a truly comprehensive deep dive into data analysis for threat intelligence. We've covered a tremendous amount of ground, from basic concepts to advanced techniques and tools. I sincerely hope you, our listener, feel empowered with the knowledge to be a more effective CTIA analyst. This chapter really feels like where the rubber truly meets the road in threat intelligence.
Indeed. We've gone from the foundational understanding of different data analysis types, descriptive, diagnostic, predictive, prescriptive, to specific techniques like statistical analysis, the rigorous analysis of competing hypotheses, and other methodologies like timeline and linchpin analysis. We then applied these to perform comprehensive threat analysis through powerful frameworks like the cyberkill chain and detailed threat modeling using methods like STRIDE and PASTA, all enhanced by the crucial context-building diamond model.
And we learned the vital importance of continually fine-tuning your processes, actively identifying and removing noise, logical fallacies, and those insidious cognitive biases that can cloud your judgment. That self-awareness piece is huge. We then moved on to the absolutely vital steps of evaluating intelligence to ensure its accuracy, relevance, and timeliness, and the practical necessity of creating actionable one-books and robust integrated knowledge bases to capture, operationalize, and share your hard-won insights effectively.
You've also gained an understanding of the powerful array of tools available to you, from statistical software like SAS and SPSS to advanced machine learning platforms like Azure ML Studio and innovative cognitive-based solutions such as Cisco Secure Cloud Analytics. Plus, the wide range of threat intelligence platforms like Threat Connect, X-Force Exchange, and open source options like MISP. These are not just concepts, but practical capabilities you can wield to truly make an impact. #tag outro.
Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into data analysis for threat intelligence. It's a complex but incredibly rewarding field, and the insights you gain here can genuinely make a profound difference in protecting organizations from ever-evolving threats.
Remember, the true power of threat intelligence lies not just in diligently collecting vast amounts of data, but in skillfully extracting meaning from that data, validating those insights with critical rigor, and continually refining your approach. Think critically, always. Every piece of context you add, every bias you challenge, and every pattern you uncover adds another crucial layer of defense for your organization. Keep that in mind as you embark on your own analysis journey.
Such a powerful thought and a fantastic call to action for every analyst. Always be learning, always be questioning. And speaking of continuing our journey, join us next time as we explore the crucial final steps in the intelligence lifecycle, threat intelligence reporting and dissemination techniques. You'll learn how to take all these incredible insights and effectively communicate them to those who need to act, making your hard work truly impactful. How to tell the story effectively.
Until then, keep digging, keep analyzing, keep questioning, and keep making the digital world a safer place.
We'll see you on the next deep dive.